Welcome to the Socket podcast. This week, we have a friend of mine named Grace Boland. Grace and I met just like Erica Lopez, we just taped another podcast this morning. She was a patient of mine at the practice. She found our practice through the Branch Moms community, which is the moms community that I run in the western suburbs, and found out that I was a chiropractor and came in and I saw her and her little babies and her husband. And as we decided to add more cast members to the Mom Network show on NCTV 17. Grace had kind of always been in my thought process as she'd be great for the show, really energetic, really positive, really upbeat, great mom, great person. So when we added 2 more cast members to the show after about a year to bring it up to 6 co-hosts, then I asked Grace and she said she would love to do it. So we've been working together on that for about a year and a half now, something like that.
Yeah, more or less, I'd say so. It's been a pretty fun ride.
Yeah. And Grace is always, oh my goodness, if someone's going to make you laugh, it's Grace. Patty Minglin, one of our other hosts, she said, when I'm watching the show back, if I'm cracking up laughing, I know it's because that Grace said something funny. So you get to be the funny one.
Well, thanks. It's not intentional, honestly. Sometimes life just happens, but yeah, no, thanks for having me on. This is super exciting.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, you're more than the funny one. So why don't you let our audience know a little more about yourself?
Sure. So I am a mom in Naperville. I've been here for about 7, almost 8 years. I have 2 boys, Nicholas and Jonathan. They are almost 8 and almost 4. Wow. So we have a nice little gap there. And been married to my husband, Ryan, for about 11 years. We love it here. I mean, this is home. We used to live towards the city, and it's nice to be in a suburb where there's families that we get to know, and over time just really see these hidden gems along Naperville. It's been a lot of fun. I teach yoga, very, very part-time these days, and I also I'm former HR corporate junkie as well. So I've kind of lived in both ends of the spectrum in terms of work.
Yeah. And so when you had children, you decided to stay at home, is that, or primarily stay at home, is that correct?
Yeah, it kind of worked out that way. You know, my mother passed away when I was very young. And ever since I decided that I wanted children, I decided that I would do anything I possibly could to stay home with them. I cherished the 9, almost 10 years I had with her. And had she been at work the whole time, it would have been a different relationship altogether, I think. And yeah. Any mom is an amazing mom. It's hard no matter what. But for our situation, I just really appreciated being able to look back at those memories that I had with her. So when we did have kids, Ryan and I were on the same page. He's like, I get it. I know what you're saying, and we'll do everything we can to keep you home. We'll figure it out. So yeah, I'm home with them, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a lot some days, but they're great. They're handling stay at home really well, more so than me some days. So I have a lot to be grateful for.
It is amazing when our children become our teachers. There have definitely been a few moments where one of my sons, I have 2 boys and they're much older than yours, mine are teenagers, but they'll say something to me or do something or share something with me. And I thought, wow, that's a really great perspective, you know? And so I do love those moments that we can, you know, take away those little nuggets and you're like, oh, I think we did something right.
Yes. You know? And, you know, I used to kind of be taken back by it. Wow, who are you, wise one? Like, are you a prophet? I mean, like, how do you know this at 7? But they take in so much more than we think. And it kind of just comes right back to you. I'm like, okay, I take touche. Understood.
Right. Yeah, right. So. Right. All right. Stuff that I'm saying to you is staying inside your brain.
Yeah, that's my pat on the back. Okay.
Right. So we talked about discussing gratitude. Mm-hmm. And gratitude is actually in part of the core mission statement of Socket. It's plugging into a life of gratitude, confidence, and happiness. And I know for myself, whether it's my patients or moms in the branch, it is, some people take in the world so differently, right? And they experience the world so differently, and their life lens is like opposite. And so I've tried to gather information as I start teaching lessons for Socket or doing these podcasts of what creates that life of gratitude, confidence, and happiness. Because those are some of the core tenets I believe gives you a life that you really enjoy living, and you're a good human, and you're giving to others, and you're loving yourself, and all of those things. So with gratitude, what's one of the top two ways that you find keeping gratitude in the forefront of your lifestyle and your life and with your family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things I never thought I would have to think about or practice, because we have so much to be grateful for all around us. But it wasn't until after I had kids that I really had to start my day on a grateful note, just because it didn't come as automatic, because the day would start in such a hurry. From the moment they woke up, it was hustling either to school or to a practice or a meal, or we need to get this done today, or you have this appointment today. And it was just running. And so I got overwhelmed, quite honestly. I got overwhelmed really quickly. And especially when the second one came too, because now I have this little human and then I have a baby human. And those humans want two different things all the time. And so it was one of those moments where I had to really sit back and say, okay, this is hard, but what am I grateful for that's easy right now, right? So it's actually mindfully thinking of the things that are around me that I already have. And it starts anywhere from, holy cow, I had two humans come out of me. That's amazing. You know, in the moments when you're feeling so like crappy about how you feel in your skin and your body, and then you realize, well, this body that I'm about to like get upset with, it actually did two really impressive things. So knock it off. And so you really have to like change the direction in which you're speaking about yourself and the things around you. So first and foremost, every morning, if I can get it done in the morning, sometimes it's afternoon. It just kind of depends when it fits in. But typically it's morning, I'll make a list. And it could be 5 things. I strive for 10. But if I could tell if I'm like trying too hard, I'm like, okay, 5's enough. And they're unique things. And they're not things that are, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my health. That's obvious, right? There are little things like, I am grateful for the most perfect ratio of creamer and coffee that I made this morning. Like, it is the most perfect color. It's exactly how I like it. And it came out beautifully. You know, I'm grateful for the fact that the sun is shining, but it's not too hot where my kids are going to be complaining and they're playing and active. I'm grateful for the fact that we have leftovers from last night and everyone's going to eat. You know, just very like simple things that are unique to every day that truly make a difference in the way that I see everything around me. And the other thing is so hard, unplugging, completely unplugging, getting away from the social media, getting away from the phone, even just like the alerts on your phone. So it's not even a matter of like, I'll just put the phone on the side. It's getting out of the room. We recently went to Tennessee just to get away and just to be in this space with each other in a different scenery, because we were trying to get sick of our backyard. And so we went to the Smoky Mountains, and no other place to feel gratitude, truly. I mean, we would walk out on this porch. We rented a cabin. We'd walk out on this porch, and it's just mountains and green and serene, and you hear every single noise in the forest, and you hear every single sound of just whether it's a cricket or your child awing at like what's happening in the landscape. And there's these little things that would happen that I would miss if I was scrolling or taking the perfect picture outside. So it's really just disconnecting from the technology so that you are totally aware of the space you're in. For me, at least, I have to, because it is too tempting. It's always there. And
it's always there. Well, in part, you know, running the branch, I mean, I kind of have to be connected most of the time. I have other admin that help me, but some of the larger mom forum groups, we approve hundreds of posts per day. And so if I go too long not being connected, then someone asks a question about, hey, we want to go to lunch downtown Naperville at 9 a.m. Well, if I don't approve that by till 11:45, they're not going to get that information. So part of my job is to be connected. And every once in a while, I just, like you said, with the unplugging, I'll talk to my other admin and say, you know what? I'm gonna be off of my phone right now. Can you make sure? I try to do the lion's share of the work, just because it's a lot to manage, and to have other people have to be tied to something all day. It's not, it's not a super fun part of running the community, but it's one of our most active parts of the community. So I definitely want to make sure we stay on top of it. But a couple of things you said really resonated with me. That unplugging. And also being present in nature. I know for me, when I get too stressed out, I personally need to be by water. That seems to do something to my soul. I prefer the water being Caribbean blue. That's my preference. Right now, I'm unable to get there with everything going on with the pandemic and travel. And so I can feel a buildup inside of me of like, I haven't seen my water. And I don't know, maybe I was like a dolphin in a previous life or something. I'm not really sure. Or a mermaid, one of the two. Maybe a dolphin mermaid, something like that.
Yeah. Are you a Pisces? I'm trying to make this connection now. The yogi in me is so intrigued. I'm like, ooh, let's figure this out.
But I try to, if I'm going to go on a walk or a run, be cognizant of the beauty around me, right? Just the trees are so green right now, and the sky, in contrast with the trees, with a couple of clouds. Some of those simple things in my backyard, it's almost like a little like nature preserve. We get bunnies, we get butterflies, we get birds, all the bees. We try to think what else we see out there. Oh, lots of squirrels. And this, like today, Jason was just looking outside. He's like, I've just been watching our squirrels eat all these berries that fall off this one tree. And we named the squirrels Henry and Harriet. Oh. And we have this huge tree in the backyard that drops these big green balls. They're huge. They're like the size of a softball. And they're gross and hairy and sticky, and there are hundreds of them come down. But we determined that if we pick up all the balls and put them over our fence in this one area, when we have coffee in the winter and sit on the couches, we can watch the squirrels eat them all winter. And we call it the Henry and Harriet show. And so I'll come down and be like, oh, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just watching Henry and Harriet. And I think, how many people would just not even realize that there are squirrels outside?
Well, and make the connection. You're harvesting for squirrels, Cathy. Like, think about that. That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. And it's like that your mind made that connection versus, I'll just toss these annoying things out. Like, right. It has purpose, right? Nature has purpose. Everything in nature has a purpose. Even the most annoying bug does something or needs something. And that's really cool.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I'll look at Jason. I can't remember what it was last time. I'm like, I'm sorry, but why is this purposeful? Why do we need these things? And he'll always, with his background, he always can pull something out. Well, so-and-so eats that, and then so-and-so eats that. And he can figure out where it is on the food chain, or what it does to keep a homeostasis of this planet. So I call him Juggling because his name is Jason. So, because he's so smart. He knows something about everything. Like, we'll be watching something, and something about some random war will come on. And I'm like, can you pause it for a second? And I'll say, can you give me the cliff notes of this? And he'll whip out a paragraph or two. Oh, it was back in this time, and this was the conflict, and this is who won. And I mean, I think it's like 97% of the time he knows something. And then every once in a while, he'll be like, Jugal has nothing for this topic. He's so cute.
I'm sorry, can you rephrase your question? Yeah. He just doesn't get it. That's funny. It's funny because my kids are in that phase, especially Nick, my oldest. He's in that phase where now he's noticing and like realizing everything lives. And so if we have a fly in the house, it's not kill the fly, kill the bug. It's save the fly, Mom. Okay. And so I'm running around the house trying to like persuade it to the window, and then I can like lift the window up and then get it out to the screen, and then I have to close the window, but then tap the screen. It's a process to save this fly. And so we'll go through it multiple times a day. If there's, we have lots of activity going in and out of the house. There's lots of flies. So then the other day, I got it out the window. I'm like, oh, save that one, Nick. And he's like, well, he looks at, at the clock. He's like, well, Mom, it's about 9 o'clock. So he only has about 3 hours to live anyways, because they only live for 24 hours. I'm like, what? I've been working on this fly for a good 20 minutes. Like, and so, I mean, they're hilarious. But I was definitely practicing gratitude. I'm like, I'm grateful that my son taught me the reminder that I needed, clearly, because I would have swatted that sucker and it's been done. That, it's a living thing. It has purpose. And so.
Right. Yeah. Flies, I put kind of, they're not too high on my list. There was a daddy long leg on the inside of our screen yesterday. And my stepson was like, oh, there's a spider. We got to get it. I'm like, no. We're going to help it outside. It's so cute. Look how cute it is. So I don't know. I think once I get into spiders, snakes, I don't know. I don't think. I had a friend of mine one time. She was babysitting someone else's snake. And at one point we were having a conversation and I can't remember what the snake's name is. I'm going to call it Jimmy. And she was like, yeah, we can't find Jimmy. We haven't been able to find Jimmy for a few days. And I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, the snake got out. We're not really sure where it is. I'm like, you go to sleep at night not knowing where a snake is in your house? There's no way. There's just no way. I couldn't do it.
No, I love it. Well, I used to have this rule before Nick went all, patriot of the animals for me, where like, if it's in my house, it's gotta go. Like I'm not, but if I'm in their house, if I'm in nature and it's in front of me, I'm going to avoid it. Right. But if it's my house, I have every right to kill.
Right.
Changed a lot. But yeah, it's incredible. I mean, their little minds, even when Nick's having a bad day, because there have been a lot of bad days in quarantine, a lot. Like, Mom's a bad teacher, flat out. And so there's been a lot of moments where we've really had to sit down, like, this day sucks. Yeah. Really get it. This sucks.
Yep.
Let's find the good. What's good about this day? And, he's like, it's almost over. I'm like, yep, it's almost over. What else you got? Right. And so we'll go through this list of like, what little sprinkles of joy can we find through the day? Or can we do something right now that we'd be really grateful for by that time? Yeah. And that's the shift that makes it so much better. Because otherwise, we don't know how long we're here for. So, and not just in quarantine, but in life. So if you're just skipping out on all the little sprinkles of joy, then you're skipping out on what we're really probably here for. So I love that, like, kids can grasp that now, which I don't know if I was.
Well, and how awesome that you're already teaching them to live in that mindset, because this is truly about your mindset. And, there was a meme at one point, and I've tried to find it multiple times. I just can't find it, but it's two men on a bus, and it's a cartoon. And one has its head turned towards like the dead grass and the, this really terrible scenery. And one is just looking the opposite way. And it's this glorious scenery. I think they're on a mountain or something like that. And it said something to the effect of, it's all about your perspective. And you think about all the things that people go through on a regular basis, and some people can get through it. And even if they're going through a really tough season, I know I've been through numerous really difficult seasons, but I've made sure that every day I didn't let that get all bogged down on me nonstop. And that I found those pockets of gratitude, those pockets of happiness, that pocket of joy, that pocket of laughter, so that every part of that day or that week or that month or sometimes that year didn't just get heavy and stay heavy, and then that infiltrated every single other part of my world. So that is definitely a practice that I think some people have that tool in their toolbox and other people don't. And for some people, they could stub their toe in the morning and it seems like kind of just stays with them all day, and they're just kind of pissed off all day. So how do you stay intentionally in a gratitude space, even when you are dealing with difficult things?
Sure. So I think it's a snowball that works the same way. So whether you are starting off with the tone of like, I'm going to seek joy and I'm going to find things all around me that I love, it'll build, right? So it's this ball that just keeps building. The more you see it, the more you identify it, the larger it gets and the happier you feel.
Yeah.
But negativity works the same way. You find the littlest thing and it builds. So now the first thing kind of got to you, that was annoying. The second thing really kind of ticked you off. The third, and it builds until you eventually, the emotions got to go somewhere and you explode. And you're like, it's either you have a temper tantrum or you full out lose your temper with your kids or your partner or your coworker or whoever. And it affects people around you. And now what's happened is you've just ruined their day. And, you know, best example I have is traffic. Well, and a story with it too. So 5 years ago, my father had passed away, and my brothers and I, we were all at the hospital with him when he passed. And we said, well, what are we gonna, you know, it's 10 a.m. What are we doing here? And I said, you know what? Dad would probably say, go back to a house, let's go eat. Let's just be together. Yeah. So my brother's like, okay. And I'm kind of looking at them like, I'll go to the store. Cause like, I don't even know what we're doing. Like, I just needed a new space to go. So I went into the grocery store and all these people around me were living their normal life. They were just going around, getting their groceries, getting their bananas. One guy was upset that the cart had a funky wheel. Another woman was yelling at her son because he was doing something, you know, and I was like, oh God, I don't know if this is a good idea. And so then like I go to get something from the deli counter and it's taking forever. Like no one is at the counter and I'm just like a ball and a mess. I'm like, I'm not going to cry in Mariano's, but I feel like I need to. And so finally someone comes to like check on me and ask, yes, I'll take X, Y, and Z. All right, they're all in the back. It's going to be a little bit, we've got to unwrap some things. We just got a new load in. I'm like, how long is it going to be? And he's like, do you have more shopping to do? It's like 20 minutes. I'm like, no, freaking 20 minutes. Like, I just want to get out of here. I don't want to be around people. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So I'm just waiting there, right? And people are just passing by, living their life. And I left the grocery store after I got all my things, left the grocery store, and I'm driving. And I'm like, no one on the road knows what just happened to me. No one around me has any idea that I've just had the most worst day of my life. Yeah. And they're living their lives and they're going. And it stuck with me because a year later, there was, traffic and people were cutting each other off. And this one guy is speeding. And my first reaction was like, what are you doing? Why would you do? I have kids in the backseat. And then I was like, I have no idea what he's been through. I have no idea what kind of day he just had. I have no idea what he's rushing to. I hope he stays safe, but that doesn't affect me. That is not something I need to get caught up in. I'm not going to get upset about someone else's journey because I have no idea what it is. Yeah. So that stuck with me. And every single day, anytime something's really starting to tick me off and I'm starting to get upset, I have to remember, like, it's a ripple effect, number one. And number two, it's not always about me. So someone else's reaction, I can keep my cool. I can stay under control because it's me I'm in charge of. I'm in charge of me and how I react and how I respond. So that's really helped. Yeah, and I couldn't agree with that more. I think about how often someone has done something that technically can be taken in as a negative towards me. Either they've said something really not nice towards me as the admin of a mom's group, which can be unbelievably challenging with all the different issues that come up on the group. Or like you said, someone cuts you off and gives you a dirty look, or there's so many, or even just a friendship that maybe has gone bad, or a relationship that isn't what you want it to be. And I always try to kind of be thoughtful of, I've never walked a mile in these people's shoes or this person's shoes, and I don't know what's happening in their lives right now. And as long as I can make sure that I am doing right by myself, like to myself, to other people, right? I'm being a good person. I'm treating people with kindness and fairness and honesty. If someone takes that in and somehow is pointing a finger back at me saying you've done something wrong, or I don't agree with you, or, something way worse that I don't want to say on a podcast, then I kind of say, you know what?
I'm just going to send them some positive energy. I really just don't know what's going on in their lives. I didn't do what you just said I did, or I don't believe I deserve that reaction. And if I do deserve that reaction, then I'll apologize and say, you know what, I made a mistake on this one, or, hey, I approved this post and realize that maybe I shouldn't have, or, I try to own my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you go back to that toolbox. I am grateful for the fact that in my 46 years, I've built up a very large toolbox of self-care, of empathy, of putting myself in someone else's shoes, of being able to build up a big kind of a big shield that I mentally put around me. And if people are zinging things at me, I'm like, you know what, that's not mine. So I'm just not going to take it in.
That's awesome. And that's so powerful too, because that basically is like your grounding in your center. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen what happens in that group, and I got to tell you, I'm like, I think I would need a cocktail to respond to some of these people, because they're just, sometimes it's just so ludicrous. And then like, but I got to go back. I'm like, okay, I don't know what kind of day they had, who knows? And this is a sensitive time, but regardless, like you're a certain kind of saint, but also it is funny how people, let's just say, they wouldn't say that to your face, right?
Right.
There's just something about the ability to be able to type it and let it go. And so it's good that you can also let it go, let the words go, and just move on with your life, knowing that.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
I went through a phase when I took over one of the other, the Plainfield Moms branch. The person that had originally started the group moved away. And some people weren't happy that I was taking it over for a number of reasons, but some of the stuff that came my way was like truly awful. I just couldn't believe that people were saying these things about me. And I have such a heart to help. So I understand if you don't, you're worried that the page is going to change, or I understand a lot of it, but the words that were used against me were, it hurt, there was no way for some of that not to hurt. But what I ended up doing was I reached out to people that were specifically awful, and I offered to take them to coffee. And I just said, clearly you're very upset about this. I think if you had a chance to talk with me for 10 minutes, I think you'd understand where I'm coming from. I'm not going to change, I'm not making the changes that a lot of people are saying that is going to happen on this group. And now I've run it for about 2 years and really nothing's changed. So I think hopefully people understand that now. But out of the 7 or 8 women that I reached out to offer to take them to coffee, only one agreed to say yes. The rest didn't write me back. They saw it, but they didn't write it back. And the one that agreed to, then a half an hour later went on the same group and she just lit me up. Mm-hmm. And I went back to her and I said, you know what? I'm going to take away my offer to meet you for coffee. I reached out to you. I rescheduled my schedule on the one Thursday that you could go. And a half hour later, you're going to bash me on my own group. I'm going to take back my offer. That's not fair.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I try to be fair. I try to be authentic. I try to be honest, like I said. But at the end of the day, sometimes, some people have just a hatred inside of them, or a anger, and again, it's really easy for me to just get angry at them, or, upset for myself and what they're saying. But what I really feel is sadness. I feel it's really got to be difficult to live in that type of mentality and that type of mindset. Because if that's what you're going to put out to a stranger that you don't even know, then, how are your other relationships, and how do you feel about yourself? And so I just try to practice sending positive thoughts. I wish you well. I wish you well, and it's not about me at that point.
No. And that's so great that you can make that connection and disconnect from it and move on with your life. I mean, clearly there's so much of it too, and our kids will go through it. Your kids might have already gone through it, but bullies come in every form. And unfortunately, even as an almost 40-year-old mom, I'm going to encounter them, which I never thought I would. But, like you just go back to your toolbox and that's it.
Right, right. Sometimes I got to dig in deep, right?
Yeah, it's way on the bottom, way on the bottom.
We got to dust off that one, you know?
It's the heavy one down below. Yep.
Right.
I hear ya.
Well, and I think, and I know you take really wonderful care of your body and your mind. All right. I know you work out a lot. I know you try to be very mindful with your eating. I know you meditate. So how would you explain how you take care of your body in order to live in a grateful mindset? Because I believe they do go somewhat hand in hand.
They do. It's all connected. You know, when I was in yoga training, one of my most favorite teachers said, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else.
Yeah.
And it stuck with me because I didn't have kids at that point yet. And it was one of those things where I felt like I was taking pretty good care of myself in the way, you know, I was getting my nails done and I was showering every day. And I was
right.
like, I'm like, oh, you can take care of yourself. And then I had kids and I was like, oh, this is what she meant. Because you're taking care of these little humans that need so much that you're willing to sacrifice the shower or the meal or the sleep. And sometimes you can't prevent it. It just is what it is. You can't do anything about it. Especially if you're home all day with the kids by yourself, you're not going to be able to take a nap while they're running around.
Yeah.
But there are other things that self-care is that don't look like the spa day. You know, I think so many of us were like, oh, self-care, spa, nails, girl time. That's awesome. And I love it. But that's not self-care. That's fun. That's enjoyment. Sometimes self-care can kind of suck. Sometimes self-care looks like making an appointment for that doctor that you have kind of been avoiding to see.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's doing the thing that you've been putting off for so long that you'll benefit from somehow, but it's hard for a reason, whether you aren't wanting to find out the answer or you just want to go through the process. Self-care is also saying no.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways of self-care, you know, you get invited out to something or it's not bringing you joy and you're like, I got to do this thing. I feel guilty to do it. Self-care is saying, no, you don't. You're choosing to do this. No one's forcing you. You can say no. And it's so fulfilling. You know, so it's so much more than what I used to think self-care was. It's something that I have to do because I truly am. I'm a way better mom when I take care of myself, way better wife, way better friend. And when I flip back, everyone notices. I mean, my kids are like, Mommy, you're not happy. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're like, oh, you're right. I need to take a little time.
Yeah, you know, and my husband's like, did you work out today? I'm like, yes, stop judging me. And he's like, was it a good one? I'm like, no. You know, so, like, they know me. I'm really predictable at this point. Even like foods, you know, certain foods, I notice I'm at the point right now where the thing that I have to do for self-care is go get a food sensitivity test because I am most certain some of the foods that I'm eating, I shouldn't be. I feel it in my body. I don't feel good afterwards. I enjoy eating them. Lots of mouth joy, but not a lot of joy.
Not body joy.
No, exact opposite. Yeah. So that's one of the things I'm kind of putting off because I know once I find the results, I'm going to be upset that I can't enjoy the things I love.
Right.
I'm going to be having a real pity party if it's wine because there are certain things I'm like, oh, but yeah, so it's for me, it's really just doing the things that I know I'll benefit from, therefore everyone around me will benefit from.
Yeah. I saw a meme on Facebook and it said, sitting in your car outside of your own home is self-care. Trust me on this, or, you know, something like that, right? Where sometimes it's just, I just need a little breather. And as the mom of older children, I have really all the time in the world to be able to practice self-care. Yesterday's, what day is today? I lose track of days. Yesterday was Sunday. I took a nap in the middle of the day. I mean, you know, my one son was, I think, at brunch with his girlfriend. My other son is with a friend. And it's not something that I'm not physically caring for young kids anymore. And so I sat in a lot of gratitude that I had the opportunity to lay down with no timetable. I didn't have to set an alarm for anything. No one was calling me mom, right? And I was able to take a little rest. And the week before, I went even a step further. You might have seen it on Facebook. Jason went to go see his dad in the city, and his brother and sister-in-law were going to be there. And usually I would have gone with them, but I'd had a very busy week and I just was feeling pretty drained. And I had seen all three of them within the last 3 weeks. So had I not seen them for months and months and months, I absolutely would have gone because it would have been important for me to be there. But because I just seen all of them in different places within the last 3 weeks, I said to Jason, I said, "Are you okay if I just stay at home?" I said, both my kids were gone. They were in New Jersey visiting family with my ex-husband, and Jason's son was gone with his mom. And I'm like, I will actually have the house to myself. And so I was in bed from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And I ate turkey tacos and mashed cauliflower for lunch in bed. And then I had a bowl of cereal with some fruit on it in bed. I watched HGTV the whole time, probably slept for like an hour. And I like gave myself a day off. Now, I know someone with young kids like yourself can't do that. And when I was in that phase of life, I couldn't do that. So I had to find other ways to do it. But I had a friend of mine, I cannot remember who it was. Her and her husband traded off every other weekend. And so it was every Saturday from 9 to 12. And the parent that was going to, be with the kids during that time left the house. So they weren't going to be in the house. So they left the house so that the husband was going to take the kids for 3 hours. Mom could sleep. She could read a book. She could go to the gym. She could talk to a girlfriend on the phone. She could watch a movie she wanted to watch. She could do whatever she wanted without any interruption from the kids. And then the next weekend, she would take the kids and he would be able to do that. And I thought that was so genius. And I can't even imagine if every couple implemented that, especially during those young kid age that's so challenging emotionally and physically. I think about the ripple effect of how many marriages would that help? How many, the stress relief that both mom and dad could feel from knowing that every other weekend I've got a chunk of time to myself, and I can do whatever I want. I thought that was really smart.
Brilliant. It's so good, especially, for sure if you have young kids, but even if you don't, I think sometimes that separation, that alone time is so valuable and precious.
Yeah.
And it's rare. And so when it's rare, it makes it that much more exciting to do. And absolutely, everyone's going to benefit. Your kids are going to benefit because they're going to feel refreshed. You'll feel refreshed. Your spouse will feel refreshed, partner. And it's something that I feel like a long time ago, like in my father and my mother's generations, that would have been like guilty, right? Like you feel so guilt-ridden for doing this, for stepping away from what you're supposed to just want to do all the time.
Yeah.
And now, because technology and social media, we're learning the mental effects of the things that we do and the way we grew up, and all these things are coming out that, oh gosh, we need to slow down a lot.
Yeah.
And I think you're 100% right. Marriages and just kids, like thinking about if they see me slow down and they see, oh, mom needs a break, then they know it's okay for them to take a break too. Like if my kid ever says, Mom, I'm really overwhelmed right now. I need to go take a break for a little bit. Can I be alone? Oh my gosh. Yes, go be alone. Enjoy. Yes, I'm here when you're ready for me. I know I'm a lot some days. You go be alone. Like,
right.
That's great. That's the biggest gift you can give someone, that permission to let go and just have a moment.
Yeah.
You mentioned about being in the car alone, the meme, and it's that transition, right? Like my husband brought it up to me a while ago when he was still commuting to the office. And he said, it's nice that he has that commute home. He has about a half hour or so commute.
Yep.
And I said, well, why? He goes, it's the transition. It's me going from the office to that fast paced, different type of work to entering the house with the kids and you and the food and okay, let's get dinner ready. And that it's fun and exciting, but it's just, I need a little bit of a bridge. And that was his bridge. And he said it was so perfect because he could listen to a podcast or listen to music, just listen to nothing. And it was a way for him to just disconnect from one activity and then go into the next.
Yeah.
That's so good. Like that's self-care right there. And, it didn't cost you a dime because you'd be doing it anyway. So
Right. Well, just to know that that's what you're doing. Right. As
yeah.
opposed to just filling that time with more work. And I'm sure sometimes it's like, I got to grab a phone call on the way home or something, but just to be cognizant of, all right, this is my unwinding time.
Yeah.
I think when one of my kids, and I just don't have the best memory, so I don't know which one it was, he would put himself up in his room. If he was getting frustrated, he'd remove himself and go up in his room for, sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it was a half hour. And he was young. He was 4 or 5. And he
Wow.
would just know somehow, I need to pull myself out of this. And I've said to my kids one time, I don't know, I'd come home from a really long day at work and the dishes weren't done or something. It was in this house. So it was in the last 6 years. And I just lost my marbles on the kids. I mean, I screamed. I mean, what I did was about 15% about what they had done and 85% the rest of my day. And I don't know why I'd had a bad day. But anyway, I literally went back they were sitting in the dining room doing homework. And I went back into the dining room and I was like, I need to apologize. I am so sorry. I don't know where all that came from. Although I'm not happy you didn't do the dishes when you've been home for, 3 hours already and I asked you to do them before dinner. You didn't deserve any of that. And I'm going to take a little time out. And I just went upstairs in my room for 20 minutes, did some deep breathing and just kind of tried to get the yuck out of my system.
Yeah.
So I think being honest with your kids when you do have those emotions come out also gives them permission. Well, I think it does a couple things. They know I take ownership for when I'm in the wrong. They know that I'm going to be direct with them and give them that I'm sorry if I have done something wrong. And they know, hey, mom's not perfect. And anyone's going to screw up sometimes. Anyone has a chance of getting overwhelmed and having something come out inappropriately. But there is the thought process that will then, on the other side of that, if you know you've done that, then go and apologize and make it right. And then take some time to cool off.
And how cool is that? They're like, oh, good, great. So when it happens to me, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And because it's hard to apologize. Oh, it's especially hard to apologize to your kids because, you want to come across as like this great mom and you're doing everything right. And I'm not. And so the days that I apologize, my son looks at me like, oh, do I? No. Like, this is cool. I'm like, well, yeah. It happens. And, and I want to make it more normal. That's something I'm working on. I'm trying to normalize that because it's hard to go into a situation like you where you're upset, and that you're going to take it on anything you have. And so that's why deep breathing, meditation, self-care, like that's where the self-care comes in. Because then when you're built up, it will slowly feel a little less pressure because you've done all this other care. Like the things that you did yesterday for self-care are helping you in your scary war situations today. They're all connected.
Yep. That's so true. So we have a few minutes left and I want to talk about meditation and how you practice that. Someone said on a podcast, well, I'm sure I do meditation wrong. I'm like, well, I don't know that you can do it wrong. The fact that you're taking some time to sit in silence or to listen to a meditation app, or I do it in a couple of different ways. And at first it was really hard for me to get into it. I didn't feel like I was doing it right, so to speak. But then I found a couple of apps that have been really helpful. And so I will turn one on when I go to sleep at night. Most of the time I fall asleep with it still going. But what does your meditation practice look like?
Yeah, so it's evolved through the years for sure. I used to be, in the yoga classes where I could spend a good 10 minutes after class in this beautiful, serene room with perfect lighting and music and nature. And it was away from all my problems and my phone was nowhere nearby. And it was very easy to just go deep. And I usually fall asleep as well. Yeah. And then I found with life and complications and quarantine, you're not going to find paradise in your office or your family room or, mixed in with the Lego table. Like it's not like that. And truly, I've ebbed and flowed. Like there are periods in my life where I'm like, oh, meditation, it sucks. It's hard. I'm not doing it. And then there are days where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start my day with it. That way there's no excuse to fit it in later. So it's one of those things that I do first thing in the morning. So my routine is basically I'll wake up, I'll work out, and if I have some time before my kids wake up, I will write my gratitude list. And then after that gratitude list, there's something that clicks in where it's like, oh, I'm at peace. And now I can meditate. And I use an app. I used to just try to breathe. And if I don't have my phone accessible or I want to break from the app, I'll just simply sit and I'll just count my inhale breaths. So I'll inhale for a 5-second count. I'll hold it for like a split second, and then I'll exhale for a 5-second count. And I'll do that for maybe 2 minutes, maybe 3. And then that's it. And then other days where I have more time, I'll actually sit through a guided meditation on an app. And that's fun too, because they're more personalized to what you're looking for. If you're looking for an app for meditation for self-esteem, or a meditation for gratitude is one of them, meditation for sleep, meditation to create more energy. It's cool because it's customized. So there's something for everyone. And just to make it clear, you can't do it wrong. The only way you can do it wrong is if you don't do it. Right? There's no way to meditate wrong. It's the thoughts that come into your head as you're sitting there are meant to be there. That's how you practice moving them out. So when you're in a real life situation where things are coming into your head, negative thoughts about your body, yourself, your worth, you can push them away. That's the whole purpose of it, just to flow in and flow out. So if you have those thoughts and you're able to say, okay, back to the breath, you're doing it right.
Yep. I agree. I use the Breathe app, and you can set any of your intentions, right? Here are my goals. And like you said, there's one for, bringing more quiet in your life, one for gratitude, one for being more creative, one for getting out of your own way. And so you can actually select your top goals. So then at night when I turn it on, I'm like, oh, what do I want to think about? And they have some hypnosis ones that are really cool. And then they've got, some of them are just bedtime stories that you can just listen to. Some are sounds of, ocean sounds and stream sounds. So it's really neat. I've been using it for about a year now, and it's helped me get into a more consistent practice. I think I did some version of meditation other than that, for the last 5 years or so. I just wasn't realizing what I was doing. Even if I go out for a walk, I've started running a little bit, and it's, very, very slow running. It's not fast running, but I count the steps. I first started doing it because I'm like, oh, I'm going to try to do 100 running steps. And then I worked up to being able to do 1,000 at a time. And then I take a little break. And so I kind of have this way of counting. I'm sure people think I'm a little nuts.
I'm sitting here thinking, how are you counting 1,000 steps? My gosh.
So I count per 50. Okay. So in my head, I count from 1 to 50. And when I hold my phone with this hand, when I'm at 50, I put my thumb in a different place so that I know I'm at 50. Then I count 1 to 50 again. This sounds nuts, I know. And then when I get to 100, I put a thumb out. When I get to 200, and then when I get to 100, then I move my thumb back down so I know I'm on the first 50 count. And then I count all the way up.
Wow.
But for me, there's a meditative function in it, right?
Oh yeah.
Because when I'm counting, I can't think about anything else. I'm focused on my breath, and I'm focused on the counting. And at one point I was like, well, maybe I should just stop counting now that I kind of know my route and I know how much I can run and how much I can walk. And, but I like it. It clears my head.
It's a focus point. It's something else to focus on other than the thought. And that's exactly what meditation is. There's moving meditations, walking meditations, and I used to be so stuck up about it where like I need to sit on a bolster and I need to have my back and my shoulders perfect and my hands are going to be face up if I need energy, face down if I want. Like there were all these things that I'd like check off to have the perfect meditation practice. And it's not necessary. In fact, it's actually ruining the whole purpose of it altogether. Meditation, the purpose of it is for you to be able to breathe through a situation that is chaotic. It's not meant to be done in a perfect situation. If you're in a quiet space, all the better, but it's not meant for that. It's meant to have the noise around you and you still are totally in your zone where you can breathe it out. Yeah. And now I'm finding that whereas before I thought you'd have to sit, you can lay down. You can put your legs up the wall to let the blood flow from your legs to give you more energy. You can be in bed and meditate. You don't have to be this, there's no meditation look. It's just in here and in here, in your heart, in your brain, and then you can actually connect with it and benefit from it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this today. I always enjoy your wisdom. You talked about your children being wise. Well, we all know where they get that from.
Oh, you're sweet.
And I always love chatting with you. I always feel calm. You calm me down. You make me laugh and you make me calm. That's a really good combination.
Wow, thanks.
You're welcome. So thank you for joining us. And to all of you out there, we hope you find some intentional time to slow down and look around and know how many things you have to be grateful for. It'll help in every part of your life. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're going through a lot of anxiety, unplugging from some of the social media and the news and all that's going on, and practicing gratitude, replacing that time is just going to be helpful in so many ways. So we hope you have a great week, and we will be back next week with another episode of the Socket Podcast. Have a great day. Thank you.